Okay, to keep it simple, my son's baby daddy was a one-night stand. He was a trucker who got snowed in. We met at a bar and hooked up. Didn't exchange contact info. I was just bored, lonely, and temporarily insane from the pandemic and was being risky and stupid as shit and didn't bother with protection. Love my kid though, no regrets there. Glad I didn't get an STD. When I realized I was pregnant, I thought long and hard about it and decided to keep him. Thanks Catholic guilt. It's not strong enough to stop me from having sex, but strong enough to stop me from getting an abortion, lol. JK, I love my kiddo and kept him because I wanted him. I make a decent living, child support would help, but we can get by without it. I didn't expect to ever see the baby daddy again and I was okay with that. Kiddo has my last name, I didn't know his. I was fine with being a single mom and dealing with everything myself. TBH, some of my friends have shit baby daddies and they and their kids are better off without them. I feel like kiddo and I are better off on our own than trying to add someone to the mix anyway. At least that's what I told myself. But my friend who works at the gas station just happened to see him. She knows his name and race, saw his name on his ID. Her nosy ass made sure to confirm it was the same guy and asked if he remembered me, asked for his number on my behalf and passed it on to me. I'm sure he is flattered thinking some random hookup talked up his skills to her friends to the extent that they remembered his name, Lamau. Anyway, thanks to her nosy ass I can't claim innocence anymore and am forced to make a decision. So, first of all, do I say anything? I know it's technically supposed to be the right thing to do, but TBH, I have heard so many baby daddy horror stories. It's to the point that if I'd gotten pregnant from a hookup with a guy I would reasonably expect to see again, but not know well enough to trust, I might actually abort because I wouldn't want my kid to go through what some kids have gone through. If I say something, this guy can sue for custody or guardianship. I can't bear the thought of letting my baby go to some stranger and not being around. Hell, he can't even talk and couldn't tell me if something happened. Not that I think anything would or that the trucker will want custody in the first place, but who even knows these days? On the other hand, how can I deprive my kiddo of a father? It would be one thing if, once he was older, I could honestly say I didn't know where his father was, but I can't possibly lie to him about that, and I can't imagine telling him I could have found his father, but I was too scared. So I'm leaning towards telling him, but how do I even do that? Can I just text him the news and get it over with? Should I try to see if he can meet up next time he passes by and tell him face to face? Is there any kind of legal shit I should be aware of with this kind of thing? Yeah, in case you couldn't tell, I went from giving no fucks during the pandemic to giving too many fucks about everything as a mom, and no matter what plan I make, I just keep thinking of the ways things might backfire and somehow hurt my kiddo. I know I am way overthinking probably, but please, I just need someone to tell me what to do. Relevant comments. Laga_1989. He's a stranger. If it were me, I would not invite an opportunity to have someone I don't know at all take my baby half the time because he's technically the father who had no choice in the decision to have the baby. Just my personal opinion. OP. That's my instinct, but I'm also imagining having to justify this to kiddo later when he asks why he doesn't have a dad. Posted to you /thrower_babymama. Update, October 28, 2023. This was my first post. It didn't get a lot of comments, but I wanted to let you guys know how it turned out. I forgot my password for my first throwaway, so I had to make a new one, but it's still me. So a while back I posted here asking for advice about how to tell my baby daddy I have his kid. After figuring out how to run a background check and seeing no criminal history, I thought I would try to meet him, do a vibe check, see if he seems cool. Hook up with him again if I need to in order to get to know him. Lol. Anyway, turns out I didn't need to go that far. The guy texted me that he was stopping by in town. We met up for breakfast. I was like, cool, promising. Breakfast usually doesn't lead to a hookup, so he actually wants to get to know me, which makes it much easier for me to get to know him. We made some typical casual date small talk. Then he asks, do I have kids? I tell him 1. He asks how old. I say 1. He's like, is he 1 in 1 month? He figured it out on his own. When my friend who never met him recognized him by his name and insisted he get in contact with me, apparently, he was like, it's either a baby or a very serious STD. So I just came clean and told him everything. I haven't introduced him to kiddo yet. But I showed him a picture. He agrees that kiddo is the cutest kiddo ever and looks like him. We are getting a paternity test. He is definitely the baby daddy because he's the only Asian guy I've been with, and kiddo is definitely part Asian. But I don't blame him for checking, since I know some women will lie about things like that. He doesn't seem like he doesn't believe me, he just wants to make sure, which is fair. Baby daddy says if kiddo is his, he's fine with paying child support and just having supervised visitation until I trust him more. He lives in his truck apparently, so no judge would give him any custody until that changed. So that's how it is. I didn't really get the choice to decide on my own terms whether to introduce them or not, but so far it all seems to be working out. Relevant comments. Atomic 71, what's your end goal here? OP, not sure I have one really, just taking things as they come. I didn't expect him to figure it out on his own, and it kinda ruined whatever plans I have. It would be nice for Kiddo to know his dad, assuming his dad is a decent person. I have no reason to think he's not, I'm just cautious, and some child support money wouldn't hurt. I support him on my own with some help from friends for childcare, but I could buy some nicer treats for Kiddo and start a decent savings account for him with child support. Oop has appeared in the thread and has given me permission to share her comment here. Additional comment. A lot of people are really struggling to understand why I was so worried about my baby daddy. I will use whatever words I want to use, y'all can deal, and whatever risk he might pose to my son, and why I would trust a guy enough to have sex with him but then not want him around my kid. I imagine a lot of you aren't parents, but let me try to explain. My son is 1 year old. He is totally helpless, he is totally dependent on me. I care about him way more than I ever cared about myself. I used to ride a motorcycle, do I anymore? No, I sold it because I don't want to leave him without a mom. I used to hook up with strangers, do I anymore? No, taking risks is a completely different ballgame when I have someone else to worry about besides myself, and also I have no time for that lol. Every single decision I make is now filtered through the lens of how could this affect Kiddo? Now when I first realized I was pregnant, I never thought I would see his father again. Everything I did was under the assumption I would be doing it alone. Which I knew would make things harder on me in many ways, but on the other hand it meant I would never have to see my baby cry because daddy broke a promise again. It was what it was, pros and cons. I knew I'd have to explain to my son someday that I didn't know how to find his father. I was prepared for that. What I wasn't prepared for, was ever having to make the decision of introducing my son to his father or not. That is a whole different ball game. It was like the rug was pulled out from under me. I couldn't say, oh, it is what it is, pros and cons anymore. I'd have to make a decision. And my son would have to live with whatever decision I made. That wasn't something I took lightly. Of course I would rather that my son have a good father than not. 2 loving parents are better than 1. But I didn't know. It was impossible to tell how things would work out in the future. All I could think was if I tell this guy, he can take my son. If I tell this guy, he can take my son. A judge can award him custody of my son and I won't be able to do anything about it. I don't know how to describe how terrifying that thought is. The thought of my helpless, innocent, baby being outside my reach. If something bad were to happen to him during that time he couldn't even tell me. It's not that I thought something bad would happen. I'm not anti-man or anti-trucker or anything like that. I don't think all men are evil. It was just this idea that, once I tell the baby daddy, I've done something I can't undo and anything might happen. You can think I'm horrible, selfish, a narcissist, the worst kind of female, whatever. None of that matters to me. What's best for my son is the only deciding factor. And in case you didn't realize, I eventually did make the decision to reach out to the baby daddy. I did want to get to know him a bit before saying anything. But when he figured it out, I didn't lie. I could have, but in the end I decided Kiddo deserved to know his dad, and if I lied right then I could be throwing away that chance. Since he clearly only agreed to meet me because he figured out what happened. I don't feel like I did anything wrong by being cautious about it. Anyway, hopefully that clears things up. Y'all might still not like me or understand me, but that's how I feel. New update. Update number 2, November 11th, 2023. Some people asked for more updates on my story. This update isn't very exciting, but TBH, I didn't expect any of this to be very exciting to strangers outside of the handful of people who originally gave me advice. I'll be posting updates here from now until I don't feel like it anymore. Anyway, the paternity test came back positive, duh, and baby daddy, I should probably start calling him a fake name. I'm gonna call him Steve from now on because of someone's comment that made me laugh. Immediately flew to my place and showed up on my porch with a dozen roses. He confessed that he had never stopped thinking about me since our first encounter, and I confessed the same. We immediately went to go make another baby. He then proposed marriage and we are planning our wedding and honeymoon in Paris. But then while we were at the store picking out a wedding cake, a team of assassins attacked the bakery and we had to flee. It turns out he is a billionaire in the mafia and he was only pretending to be a trucker as a cover, but his enemies found him. Now we are on the run and I am pregnant with our next baby named Steve Jr. It really sucks to be on the run while pregnant. I gotta stop and pee all the time, but assassins keep popping up at the gas stations. JK, sorry, it is just amusing to me that people are invested in my life. I couldn't resist the drama. Okay, here's the real update. The paternity test came back positive and Steve and I have been texting back and forth and talking on the phone. We still need to figure out a good time to meet up, so that hasn't happened yet and I don't know when it will. Apparently Steve passes by my town a lot, but not always at a convenient time to stop for a visit. Anyway, I found out a little bit more about him as a person and told him more about me, just getting to know each other. I've also sent him every picture of Kiddo. I'm still gonna call my son Kiddo since I actually call him that IRL. If you don't like it, deal. I could find and pretty much told him the entire story of Kiddo's life up to this point down to every mundane detail. Steve has been pretty mellow about everything so far and doesn't really seem either upset or excited about anything. But I guess since he figured out what happened a while ago, he doesn't have much reason to be shocked. I'm nervous but also excited. Obviously if everything works out I'm going to be thrilled that Kiddo gets to have a dad. I don't really have any specific concerns that things won't work out. I'm just nervous in general because I don't know what's going to happen and becoming a mom made me a paranoid wreck. Miscellaneous things. Steve says he doesn't have any other kids. To his knowledge. But he usually uses protection. That was an out-of-character reckless moment for both of us. So he most likely doesn't. Steve asked me frankly if I was intentionally trying to get pregnant that night. It might have seemed that way because I told him I had condoms and then I couldn't find one. But no, I legit just forgot where they were, and in the heat of the moment we were both drunk/stupid enough to carry on anyway rather than putting our clothes back on and going out to buy some. I found out Steve's ethnicity. To put it simply, he's mixed. I'm not going to list all his ethnicities because that would start to get too specific. He speaks the language of one of his ethnicities as a second language, and he sent me some YouTube channels that have some children's songs in that language so kiddo can be exposed to it, so we've been listening to those. I think it's super cool. Some of my friends' kids, who I babysit, are now super into it. Maybe they'll all grow up bilingual insert name of language here, in the middle of, insert name of mostly white small town in a mostly white state here. Some people have pointed out that it's going to be important for kiddo to have other people in his life that are connected to his culture on his father's side. I will admit, this isn't something I gave a lot of thought to, and you aren't wrong. Something that kind of hit me was all the comments about how unusual it is to see an Asian trucker. To be honest, I never thought of that. Yeah, if I hear the word trucker I'll always imagine a fat white guy. I don't mean this in an offensive way, but I didn't really think anything of meeting an Asian trucker. Seeing all the comments made me think, like, what if my son wants to be a trucker when he grows up? Are people going to say it's weird because he's Asian? That's not right. He should be able to be whatever he wants without people thinking it's weird. I don't care if he wants to be a trucker, mechanic, ballerina, pro athlete, cop, waiter, none of the above, all of the above. Like, I know the comments weren't poorly intentioned, but the idea of my son ever hearing that it's weird for him to do something because he's Asian kind of broke me. I know it's not the same, but I grew up hearing that I was weird to do the things I loved because I'm a girl. I already decided long ago my son can be as masculine or feminine as he wants, and if anyone has shit to say about it they would have to go through me. But then there's this whole other angle I never considered that he will probably experience, and I don't know anything about it. So, yeah, I'm glad he will have his dad in his life, and really just more family in general. Steve hasn't told them about kiddo yet, but he says he's not worried they'll be disapproving or anything, he's just waiting for the right time to break the news. My family is totally disapproving, and I've pretty much stopped talking to my parents since they're mad I refused to give kiddo up for adoption to my aunt and uncle. I am totally rambling now. I guess the other thing people commented about was child support. Turns out Steve isn't doing very great financially right now, and his family is going through some serious hardships that he's been helping them with, so he asked if he can pay me back pay child support later. I just told him not to worry about it. I really don't need back pay. I don't need child support at all. I don't want to wrangle any money from him, and any money he gives me for kiddo it should be because he wants to. I give kiddo stuff because I love him and want to take care of him. If his dad gives him anything it should be for the same reason, not because he has to. I also told him, just in case, if he doesn't want to be kiddo's dad he can walk away right now and never contact me again. I won't go after him in court or anything. I don't want to introduce kiddo to any father who thinks of him as a burden or an obligation. He assured me he genuinely does want to meet him and be a part of his life, so that's good. Anyway, yeah, that's the update for now. I'll post again when Steve gets a chance to come and meet kiddo. By the way, on my last update I think I got a little carried away arguing with people who apparently didn't even read my post. This time I'm going to try to make an effort not to do that. I was a little caught off guard, but now I'm prepared in case any of these updates get a lot of comments again, and I think I'm more mentally prepared to just let people be stupid without it getting to me. Basically what I mean is, I'll no longer be replying to people who say I hate men, because I don't. If I hated men, why would I have a son? Or I hid my son from his father for a year, or accusing me of anything else that I didn't do. Now on to the second story. Story 2. Was I wrong for telling my wife to go and see her son before he dies? My wife Sarah, 39F, has a son Vicky, 20 meters, from her previous marriage. Because of the way my wife and I got together, there was a lot of strife in her divorce from her ex. There was a lot of tumult in Vicky's life, and he was only 8 at the time. For a few years, my wife tried her best and tried everything to help him, but it was like the more she tried, the further away he got. It came to a head when he was 12 and she caught him trying to smoke, and then he almost broke her jaw when she stopped him. After that, she stopped trying to force the custody and just let him stay with his dad. When he was 14 and we had our son, she sent him a message that his brother was born and that even if he doesn't want to be around her, it doesn't mean he can't love his brother. He just responded back with "go yourself." She tried the same thing 3 years later when our daughter was born, but got no response this time. Well, 2 days ago she got a call from her ex and he was crying, and apparently Vicky is dying. He has cancer and they found it very, very late, and he's optimistically only got a month left and he's been begging to see her. So, I've told my wife to go and spend the month with him. She can work online from a month or take a leave or just quit if they don't understand. However, she's refused and she's used everything from work to needing to take care of our kids to even what if it's just a trick to hurt me more as excuses to not go. At the same time, she keeps crying, muttering about thinking she had more time, ignoring our kids, looking at old photo albums of her and Vicky. It came to a head this morning when I caught her having a breakdown in her car before going to work. I begged her to reconsider when I saw and she called me a effing a hole for trying to push her into going. I know he's not my son and that I have no right over him, but not going is tearing Sarah apart, so Ada? Edit. To everyone confused, when our kids were born are not the only 2 times that my wife tried to reach out and ask if he was ready to see her. It's just when our son was born was the only time that he responded. She tried up until his graduation when even his father tried to get him to invite her. She sent him money, presents and everything for his birthdays. And as for when he struck her when he was 12, he did so with a hockey stick and then kicked her when she fell. She forgave him for that because she knew what he was going through and he's her child, but she decided to stop seeing him then because she didn't want her presence in his life to make him more violent. What if he hit another kid? Like that was her thought. And to everyone saying therapy. Yes, she took him to therapy, she tried so much but he was non-responsive then. Relevant comment. Spirited_block 250. I presume she cheated on her husband with you and that's why the son wants nothing to do with her, which is understandable TBH, for a kid especially, even at 14 to 15 years old. You are trying to do right by her because she will absolutely regret not going to see him. It's doubtful based on their relationship that the son will let her around for a month, but at least she can and should go say goodbye. He has a right to feel angry with her, she needs to sack up and go or she will be haunted by this after he passes. OP, thank you. It's her son who is asking and he hasn't asked for her at all in so long. I understand her being afraid but this is her last chance. Update, November 9th 2023. I have provided proof that this is me since my account was banned, probably because I made it from a work machine I remote into. My wife's son Vicky passed away a week ago and I guess I'm posting because I also feel I need to clear up how I feel about things and people were so willing to listen here before. Now after my wife came home the day I posted we had another big argument about it and I honestly felt I wasn't getting through to her. I tried to use some of the points that people in the comments told me and I just was surprised at how stubborn she could be. But it ended with her screaming at me that her son's not sick, he's not dying and he's fine. I don't know if she was just that deep in denial or she thought it was a trick or something, but the way she screamed scared our kids, so I felt that I had to just let it lie. My wife actually got a call a few days later from a young woman claiming to be her son's wife and begging her to come. And that made her do it, and the people at her work were so understanding they gave her up until the end of this month off. My relatives came over to help me with the kids since she made it clear that she had to do this by herself. She took a flight out to where her son's family was staying, got a hotel and went to see him. She hasn't really told me everything in detail given that she only got home 2 days ago, but pretty much, according to her ex, their son started acting odd about the time he graduated high school. They didn't think anything of it then because he was acting way more mature. They got him married and died about half a year ago with no objections, and she said her ex was blaming himself for not having realized that he changed because he was sick. She told Met Hay got him married because his wife is the only child of a family with a lot of land. What's really made her cry over and over again is that nobody even told her that her son was getting married. She keeps telling me that she would have known he was sick, she would have been able to save him, that she should have been there. Honestly, she's right to blame her ex because her own relatives don't talk to her, she doesn't use Facebook and she had a right to know. As for her daughter-in-law, my wife has done nothing but sing her praises. She's studying engineering at the University of Alberta and she is currently pregnant, and that's honestly giving my wife a bit of hope. She's said that a piece of her son is still there, and I honestly don't know how she would have been if she wasn't. I know how hard it must be for my wife's daughter-in-law, but I am glad that they can be there for each other. As for my wife's son, my wife really hasn't shared that much with me. She's just said that he was sad, he kept on apologizing for he was and forgetting things, and that the way he was made her feel like her son was already gone before she made it there. She did tell me that he passed away in her arms while she was praying, so I really hope that means that they were able to reconnect. I don't expect her to share this with me, but I guess that's where my frustration comes from. I've always wanted my wife to have everything she wants, and I know in her heart there's nothing she's wanted more than her son back because he was her heart, and now she can't have that. And it's not like an estranged parent or sibling dying because he was her son and she made him. She literally made him, and I see her crying that it should have been her, and it honestly makes me angry. All I can do is be there for her, but I feel like I shouldn't have to be because her son shouldn't have had to die so young and so cruelly. So, thanks for listening to my rant. I might come here again if I need to rant. Relevant comment. Cannabis_cat slave, thanks for the update. I am glad the poor kid got to see his mother before he died. OP, it's a bit of solace and I certainly think it's for the best.